want to start by talking about the challenge at hand, and I'll go because I'm Rachel Henke. I lead the Dell Technologies brand, campaign, and content team. And quick show of hands, who in the room has heard of Dell? It should be everyone because we have like 98% awareness, right?
That's good.
Who in the room has heard of Dell Technologies? Okay, actually more than I thought. This means I'm doing my job, maybe. Okay, so I want to tell a little story. Is that about 3 years ago, Dell and EMC merged, and we formed Dell Technologies. With this merger came a host of brands, EMC, VMware, Pivotal, to name a few, and what those mean in the tech world are really good enterprise capabilities in terms of technology. So Circle Dell, which we call it with a computer brand, had started to dabble in enterprise through some acquisition. This merger meant we were a B2B company. And what we did was we took all those brands and put them together, and for our customers, we renamed the company Dell Technologies. And so really looking at the future of our company as this B2B end-to-end enterprise provider. So as someone who got charged to lead the brand campaign and really change minds that, hey, make sure you know that Dell Technologies is an end-to-end enterprise provider, which starts with the word Dell, which people automatically think computers, we had our work ahead of us. So we did things like launched a major brand campaign. We hired a celebrity spokesperson to star in those ads. But what we knew we had to do fairly quickly was drive credibility behind what we were doing and what all of these brands that are now Dell Technologies were doing. So we, in addition to the advertising, we started to create content. And creating content inside, we knew was going to take a long time to build up. So we started to turn to native publishers, and Business Insider was one of them.
Absolutely. So I work at Insider. I've been there about 5 years. Our branded content studio, 8 years old. So in some ways and shape, we're kind of one of the older players in that marketplace. And so what you're seeing here is a lot of gaudy numbers that any publisher and every publisher will likely put up.
It's part of your pitch.
It's part of our pitch. Absolutely. It's a nice pitch deck, right? Sorry about that. But I think what I want to call attention to the fact, though, is that Rachel reached out to us because we had such a strong strong segment, specifically around the younger BDMs, IT decision makers, as well as tech enthusiasts. And I think what's also important to note is look at those traffic numbers. I mean, we see so much traffic. I mean, Ty, once again, 12 times a day, that guy is on the site. He's contributing to that 95 million kind of monthly uniques. And so what that also allowed us to do is, in working with Rachel, at least from the get-go, is do a fair amount of testing. So we have millions of people come to the site. We're able to throw articles up there, see what they're responding to, what's going to work well, and so ultimately laying a groundwork for a more successful collaboration as time goes on. We've had plenty of partners come in at the $50,000 range, $75,000 range. We love them all, but they come, they publish one article, we put it up there. It does okay, it does good, but they never really come back. They don't learn much of anything, and so I think it's a testament to Rachel and her team right here, sitting in the front row, Dawn and Annalie, that they stuck with us and were willing to put in place a 3-4 year kind of partnership.
Well, I will say though, it didn't start out that way. It started out as we needed content, and we're also building our own. So we'll talk through the journey. So we're talking about how this is, and I'll be peppering in what we are doing on the inside. We're doing at Dell Technologies as well, but also we really. That first year, the challenge became, hey, we need to build content pretty fast, and it needs to be credible, and it needs to engage our target audience, which is B2B decision makers. So in year one, we gave the challenge to Business Insider. Part of the campaign, the brand campaign, featured our customers. We knew inherently that this was a good strategy because who better to talk about end-to-end enterprise capabilities than your customers? And so we really relied on their stories to tell our story, and so we worked with Business Insider to do that as well.
Yeah, and in the same period, they were supplying us with a fair amount of articles they'd already written. We built out infographics, took white papers from them, turned them into really short, digestible pieces of content, and did a fair amount of testing. But ultimately, they pushed us to produce these case study videos and B2B videos. And Business Insider, think about 3-4 years ago, not necessarily a juggernaut that we are today in terms of business video. And so for us, it was also kind of pushing us outside of our comfort zone. And you may well be able to notice that here. But with that in mind, though, one of our favorite videos from that time. So,
as you walk through our museum, only about 10% or less of our collections on display at any one time. And there's only so much we can rotate on an annual basis. So digitizing the collection, preserving the game's history, is going to allow us to take what we have in our storage vaults and bring it to the mass public and bring it to the world.
The donation from Dell Technologies puts us in a position to where we can, as a not-for-profit organization that relies heavily on donations, we can actually envision really making this into something that's dynamic and a delivery to the greater sport community of tennis.
All right, so great video, really showcased the Dell technology in the background at the Tennis Hall of Fame, albeit maybe not our most successful video.
Well, I mean, the challenge that we had too was finding customers that could really start to talk to, like dabbling in all areas. And so that was actually a really good example of one way we worked closely, which we did a lot of storage and data, so we pulled it together. But our storytelling got much better as we went. We have to go back one slide.
He's got it.
Yeah. So year two, this is where actually things got to get a little more fun. And I will say on our end at Dell Technologies, we were creating our own content. So on year two, we actually launched our own site called Perspectives, which is just an offshoot of DellTechnologies.com. We launched a podcast, Trailblazers, with Walter Isaacson, which is actually one of the top performing business podcasts. And so I'll toot my own horn here. We recently won Adweek branded podcast of the year for really creating engaging content that really talks about emerging technologies without kind of hitting you over the head. But year two was when we started to go into different formats.
Pushing out into social networks and really making a big imprint in terms of what we were doing on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, as well as LinkedIn, if you can believe that. And it was about this time, this was kind of the halcyon days of Facebook video for us, in which you post a video and immediately get 20 billion views and go on from there. And so, but what we did though, we got really good at it, and we built a huge audience and we built a huge following in that regard. And so we were able to sit with the Dell team and really kind of educate them on the anatomy of a really great video and kind of what that would entail. And so, what are the key components of a good kind of social video? And so with that, we took that and began to produce more content. Again, pushing the Dell Technologies name out further from our owned and operated to Facebook, to Instagram, and elsewhere.
No matter what business you're in, a combination of human power and data help you make better business decisions. And because this is such a technology-driven sport, we need partners like Dell Technologies to help us move faster.
All right, so I mean, that was just a quick little cut down on what that was, and that's something that we used also for 6 second and 15-second pre-roll, as well as Instagram stories and so forth, really to spread the reach of Dell Technologies. And that video alone, I think, had the hallmarks of that social video back then. So something that was arresting, stop the thumb, really simple story, great visuals. Cars, everyone loves race cars.
Well, and we sponsor the McLaren race car as well, and then we have a really deep technology partnership with McLaren in general too. So not only did it have that flash, but it also had that technology story that we were able to tell.
And so, it generated millions of views, which is historically something that the Dell Technologies B2B videos didn't necessarily get. At the same time, though, Rachel correctly points out, and I would agree, that was, again, the halcyon days of social video on Facebook. Like, what is the view of a 1 second view or a 3 second view, especially when you're marketing a pretty kind of complex marketing thing there with Dell Technologies. And so, with that in mind, we moved on to, we learned a lot, we did a lot of great work there. Again, not quite really fully getting there to where we needed to be to fire on all cylinders to hit all the marketing notes. And so that's when we moved into the third year of our engagement with Dell Technologies.
And that's where we are here. If someone had told us when we started this relationship we would be doing this 3 years in a row, I would have been, really? But because when we first started this relationship, it was really, as we started to say, we needed content, we needed it fast. But as we really got to know the team and they got to know us, the relationship turned to one of piloting and testing, and we actually had Business Insider come in and give our content team kind of a creating content 101. So the relationship became really deep and fruitful in that way as well. So going into year 3, having all of this content we've already built up, we have a platform on Business Insider, and we have a really successful relationship going. This year, we're like, what else can we do? How can we take this deeper?
Mm-hmm. So we were fortunate in that at this time, Insider and Business Insider were pushing quite heavily into YouTube as well as our OTT, and still continuing to bump up our owned and operated video. And so within that, we began to really move away from making those 1-minute videos that, again, worked really well for us, but move more into 5-minute, 10-minute, 15-minute, even 20-minute videos in some instances. And that's on the editorial side. And so my team worked with Rachel's team to kind of bring a lot of that sensibility to the storytelling we did here. And again, to continue to push Dell into different places like YouTube. And so with that in mind, we'd love to show you another video, but I think be remiss if I didn't also point out too, what we're able to do kind of in these kind of longer stories as well is cover a broader range of clients that they had. And so I think that's important to note because we have a farmer, we have automated driving right there, we have a robot in Singapore, right?
So, yep, that's Singapore. We have blockchain shipping in Belgium, and then we have it's kind of like sustainability and technology story in Miami.
So really going deeper here to really show the pliability of the Dell Technologies and what they can bring to the table. What I'm going to show you is just another kind of truncated or a little smaller version of a longer video that we did at a lovely turkey farm. And sadly, I think this did launch around Thanksgiving, so all apologies to turkeys. But
the turkeys react to the robot differently depending on how many times they've seen it. When they're younger, they get very curious about the robot. They'll just get very, very close and peck at it, which is fine for the robot, fine for the birds. I have a robotics background and grew up in the Midwest, always liked farming. Thinking through where could a robot really fit in and help. I met up with turkey farmers that said yes, please do this. We thought we can do robots, let's do this robot.
not bad. So we're pushing into longer forms of storytelling, and what we found also from the edit team and from our own work is that the longer you make your videos, the more story you're able to tell, and ultimately you get more engagement out of those videos, as well as longer time. Chris, what's so funny back there? Why are you laughing? Please share with. Anyway, sorry.
We're curious to know what happened with the robot do.
Oh, the robot does. It's actually pretty amazing. So it actually goes and checks on the turkeys, and it's it creates more of a healthy environment for them. So it goes through. It really has like sensors, and so it can heat map them to see if there's any illnesses or everyone's there. And it actually goes and tills the ground as it's going, so it makes for a healthier environment as well. And it also saves the farmer time as well. So yeah.
Smart guy.
Yeah. No, it's like a win-win. It's a really sweet story. You should go watch it.
Okay, we're down to a minute here, so.
But what was one of the quotes there? I think the next slide has.
Oh, I don't know what's going on with the old clicker and the slides. Oh yes, here we go. And so, I mean, I think the proof is in the pudding. Yes, we can share. We will share a bunch of gaudy numbers again about how well we've done over the years. But ultimately, can you make a full 1-hour documentary on this? People want to know. This is a comment that was posted to Facebook, and so anyone in the room here, know anyone who wants to fund this video, wants to produce it, we'll come back Sundance next year, present an hour-long documentary on that robot. Chris, you sound like you're interested, so see me after. But yes, as promised, here are some of the gaudy numbers that we're able to do. And again, I think Rachel points out, again, this is B2B marketing, folks, so it's not always the most kind of romantic, sexiest thing out there. And sometimes can get pretty technical and detailed. We're doing our best to make it sexy, absolutely. And so in terms of the videos that we've produced over these years, as you can see, 940 days of view time speaks to the fact that we were able to really bring it to a place where people are watching the whole stories, getting the Dell Technologies tie-in, going from there. In addition to a fair amount of engagement on our own site, and which is great in terms of, we did a beautiful McLaren infographic interactive that had the video on there and a host of other things. And I believe that had a click-through rate of about 0.25% to the Dell Technologies content on their owned and operated. And so, again, you don't really see that in most display advertising numbers these days, which are pretty minuscule. So.
So I think we just kind of wanted to round this up with, first of all, we have a huge body of work that we're actually using on our platform, and they're using some of our content on theirs. So it's really turned out to be this great story to tell within a platform that gets a lot more viewers, quite frankly, than our own site, because that's one of the reasons we worked with them, is because they do have that growing customer base, especially in B2B.
I'd be remiss if I didn't note, again, we'll wrap it up right here, but it's important to note that because they stuck with us so long, we've built up a huge amount of data over time. And so we have a pretty good segmentation going, in addition to a lot of first-party data, which the team oftentimes shares with her programmatic team. We share the insights with them. We share all that segmentation so they can use that for retargeting, whatever they need to do for insights. And I don't know how keyed in the brand storytelling audience is to these types of things, but in the programmatic land, essentially, really, the third-party cookies going away. No one's really going to be able to track anything online anymore, thanks to Google as well as iOS. So it's another kind of, again, if we're talking about having a long-term relationship, one of the best things you can do over that time then is build up a huge amount of data, a huge amount of learnings, as well as a bunch of content that now Rachel and her team can repurpose, reuse, splice and dice, and continue to engage an audience and tell a pretty complicated B2B story.
Yeah.
Good?
I think that's pretty good, yeah.
All right, we'll let you be, all.
Thank you.
Take care.